Hey, he's Enzo.
And she's Claire.
And this is Too Long for a Voice Note, episode number 11.
Hi guys, welcome to a new episode.
Welcome back, everybody.
Beautiful podcast. We have a special episode today.
Yeah.
Right, Claire?
We've got a special bonus episode, something a little bit different. We are going to be talking about... You go.
We're talking about a special documentary film called Once Upon a Time in Venezuela. We decided to watch it and talk a bit about it, what it's about. So yeah, it's maybe sometimes we like to do this type of different special episodes on the podcast where it's not secret topic.
Yes.
It's more with just speaking about
exactly.
something.
We've seen something we're
So
inspired
yeah, this
by.
is a different approach to the podcast. So we're excited.
We thought that it would also be a good opportunity for Enzo to speak a little bit about the situation in Venezuela. We're not going to go into it too much in a really heavy way. It's a heavy situation.
Yeah,
but
it's a lot. But yeah, it's good to
for those of you who don't know, Enzo is from Venezuela.
From Venezuela.
So we wanted to talk a bit about it.
Yeah.
Maybe for those of you... because to be honest, myself, before I met Enzo, I didn't really know a lot about the situation in Venezuela. So if you don't know anything about Venezuela or Latin America, don't worry. We're going to fill you in a little bit. Explain the situation as best we can.
Yeah.
So let's get into it.
So yeah, well, it was really interesting because you actually had the idea originally to watch the documentary because you saw it somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. Where you saw the documentary?
I think I saw it on some film Instagram account because this
documentary... Was it Edgar Ramirez?
No, you're right.
Yeah. You were I saw it in this indie... why I'm like this? I'm sorry. I'm not just throwing you under the bus. No. I saw this as an indie, independent, cool Latin American account that I followed for 5 years already. It was Edgar Ramirez.
You're Claire, you were stalking Edgar Ramirez again.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It was Edgar Ramirez. No, I saw it on Edgar Ramirez's story. If you didn't know, Edgar Ramirez is Venezuela's national treasure. He's a really famous actor.
Yeah. So so you brought up the...
But yeah, I wanted to watch it with Enzo. It was shortlisted for the Oscars that are going to be happening this year. It didn't make it to the final selection. It was nominated for...
Yeah, it's really cool because actually it went shortlisted in many good festivals like Sundance and many of them. I mean, you go to the website, you can see all the recognition the documentary has got. So yeah, Claire say, well, let's do you want to watch this? And actually I was looking to watch this for a long time, and I knew a few persons who watched it already. And yeah, it's very interesting because I guess the situation in Venezuela, it's really complicated one. If you don't know, basically, of course, it's very how you say, very a light,
dense,
it's dense topic, and it's gonna be a light explanation of everything that's happening. But the last more than 20 years, there's a whole political situation there where it was with the Chavez, which was the president 1999, and then he died. Then he got the succession from somebody from his party. Anyway, it's a long thing, but Venezuela is being in a really struggling socially, politically, in many ways. Basically, right now we have a dictatorship.
Yeah.
So
Maduro is in power currently. Yeah. He basically just essentially took right over from Chavez when he died.
Because
there
he was
no
on his party.
election or anything like that.
There was an election that was rigged.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's a whole situation, but the thing is which I think is interesting about this documentary is it's a little representation of what's happening in the country, which has been for many years. It's been one party, which is the opposition, and the other party, which is the Chavismo, which is the government, Chavez, movement or revolution, as he called it. And basically this revolution led to more poverty, more social differences in many ways, which it turns out to be that's why more than 6 million of people are out of the country right now because they just left the country, just emigrate because they had really bad conditions to live in the country. So
so my understanding of it was that you can obviously tell me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was from what you told me that Chavez kind of he tried to appeal to the poorer people in Venezuela and said, like, typical dictator that's very common in Latin America, like, and other continents as well, like, we'll help you, we'll bring you out of poverty. And then, of course, like, it didn't go that way. And then he, like, gave them guns and everything like that. And, like, made it more unstable for them. So it was, like, classic, the rich got richer, the poor got poorer.
Yeah, it's really like
and
that.
This is kind of what this documentary
in a way represents, because of course, like, the situation is very long and a lot of details, but basically at the beginning, like, the country, I mean, of course there's a situation that started even before Chavez started his issues. I mean, there's, like, political issues in Venezuela from really long time, but I think Chavez basically, he saw the perfect opportunity to jump in. And some people say he actually got good intentions at the beginning. I'm not sure of it, but so people say because he became kind of this character full of power and, like, charisma, kind of like a Donald Trump kind of person, but with many other type of characteristics. But he became like a celebrity at the end. He was loved by people. He was very charismatic. So he used that powers he had to, like, help the poor people, but actually he was not giving them enough tools to, like, actually get better. He just was, like, using them for his purpose, which was like stay in the government forever. I mean, he wants to stay at power forever, he said, like. So it's complicated top situation.
But I think that kind of gives a good background to the situation, and it's because, like, Enzo's told me that, you know, Venezuela, it's really sad because it's a really resource rich country. It should be really, really rich, and, like, there's so much oil and everything like that, but it's just
natural resources
in a really, really bad situation.
Yeah, and now people in power and the government are the ones who has all the money, now it's like a mafia because there are drug dealers, and there's, like, mafia with dollars and all of the resources, like half China and half Russia is inside the country taking over about all because also the government, they just ask for money and resources from other countries like China and Russia, and now they're in debt. So it's like it's a circle of stuff, like basically they destroy the economy, there's no national production anymore. It's a series of things, but basically right now, like, the country is basically, like, trapped in this kind of dictatorship situation. It's like because it's not all the elements for being like, oh, it's like you have some type of freedom, but it's like a freedom inside of this really complicated circle of things. So actually there's not a lot of opportunities. So you need to be part of the system to kind of, like, survive. That's why everybody's, like, kind of leaving the country.
So basically anybody that could leave, like yourself,
left.
Like
many of my friends, like, we're helping our families that are there because there's no other way.
Of course.
So it's a bit complicated thing.
So it's in a really bad situation. It's a really, really, really bad situation.
So I think the interesting about the film, I want to know everything what you think about it, because for you it's a different perspective than me, because for me it's like it's so familiar because it is what it represents Venezuela. As my cousin Anna told me, she said, like, and I agree with that, it's like a fair representation of the country, but like in a really small space, because it's about like a little village that's about to disappear and all of that. And it's literally what you see there is like a representation of everything that happens in the country all the time and what's been going on for like years and years and years. So yeah, like, do you want to talk a bit about what you see in the documentary, and then
So
what do you think, like, what was your first impression, like, from your point of view, that you haven't this could be like your first, like, real how you say, like, approach to the situation kind of thing, like, the real, like,
I guess, like, because I think whatever I've seen about, like, Latin America in general is, if you know, talk about, like, problems in Latin America, if there have been films that have been made about, like, Che Guevara, for example, or that kind of situation, or like stuff in Cuba, but this is the first kind of film I've seen about Venezuela. So to explain a bit about the documentary, it's in a specific area in Venezuela. It's called Congo, right?
Congo. Yeah. It's in Maracaibo, which is an area, but it's called the Congo. It's the like community, the village community. Yeah.
So it's a village that's built literally just above the water. So they're kind of on, it's like a floating village, basically. And back in the day, according to the villagers, like it used to be thriving, and like there's loads of fish there, and people could live off the fish, and it
They're
was
like
a fishing community.
Yeah.
But now it's just completely ruined by pollution.
Yeah.
So there's loads of oil in the river, like all the fish are dying, like the wildlife are dying, like the children are like bathing in the water, and it's like covered in oil, and there's loads of like mosquitoes, and like really bad. There's nothing there, and like the government has like forgotten them, and that's it. That's kind of where we meet them.
Yeah.
And like there's like a big like political election, if you want to call it that, kind of like happening in the backdrop of this. And it was filmed in like 2015, you said 14, 15, but then they kind of follow on like a year later or so. I guess I know from you that it is corrupt in Venezuela, but I didn't realise to the extent that it's corrupt. Like, without giving too much away, because I really do recommend that you guys watch it, but it kind of mainly follows this woman who's like a kind of like a mayor of this town. And she's
kind of like in power.
She is on a power trip, this lady. And she's being given money by the government to buy votes. And like she's just literally like handing out, like blatantly buying votes. Like they're not even trying to hide it. Like literally just giving them food. Like, do I have your vote? Do I have your vote? Yeah. Do I have your vote?
It's like, so interesting that for you was so shocking, and for me was like, yeah, okay, because that what I have seen on my country for like so many years, and that's what the government, the Chavista government, what they have done. Like they've been buying votes for so long. They basically, after gaining all the sympathy from the poor people, instead of helping them, they help them buying them stuff. Or like, I give you like a kilo of flour, a kilo of this, a kilo of that, and you give me my boat. I give you this and give you that, and you give me that back. So they're been buying this boat for so long, because I know that people that have nothing, they have so little, like, for them, like a kilo of something or a bit of bad quality food, it's already enough. And then, but that you see like these people that have so little and so little opportunities about whatsoever in life, like for them, this is helping them, oh, he's helping me. The president is helping me. Which is in a context, he is doing it, but in a really twisted way, because we're not talking about like a poor country that has no resources.
Exactly.
We're talking like a rich country that could give to everybody, could have like a really decent type of life. So
it's true. I think the corruption was one thing that struck me, and I think also the way that it's kind of following on from what you just said about like that lady that I mentioned, like
Tamara.
Like she's very, I would say, manipulated. So manipulated, and like she is like, she has a poster of Chavez on her wall. Like she's obsessed. He's a god. Like she's just like we said, like it's like a Nazi kind of thing, like the same kind of mentality.
It's
like,
a mentality.
I've bought into this ideology and that's it, and like I will fucking fight anybody who opposes me, which she does, because there's a lady that's kind of opposing it, which they're following that kind of story in the documentary, and she just wants that woman gone.
Because basically she was afraid of the ideology to get lost. Because the community wasn't much. I think it was interesting because part of her was like about the community, but the main fuel of her power thing, because she doesn't want the ideology of Chavez to be gone. Because he's like, no, he needs to live within us forever, and if he's not here with us, it's gonna be the American government, whoever's gonna come and take over us. So it's like a weird complex mentality, but at the end she's keep going to see what.
No, I thought it was really sad because there's a scene in the documentary where she goes to see this really high up guy who's in the government. His name,
I think it's Ares. I think it's Ares Cardenas, but
it doesn't. But anyway, some like asshole guy. And she's like doing this. It's a really good shot in a way, because she's doing this like monologue, like this like plight of like, it's really bad. Like, we're losing people, like people are leaving the village because it's really bad. There's no fish. There's only 30 families there, etc., etc. We can't do anything because of the pollution. And it's on her face, the camera. And then he's literally like, hola, ¿qué tal? And it's like, he's like answering his phone like while she's listening. And it's like, this is somebody who's working for the government that like she's sacrificing her life for. He doesn't even care. So it just shows like, they don't care. She's just a pawn in this game, and
Yeah.
she's just there to like buy people to get vote. And it's really tragic.
They're
in a
using
way.
her, by the way, at the end of the day. Sorry.
Of course.
Yeah.
And it's really, it was actually kind of sad because Tamara, like, she's such a like unlikable character.
But then
But it's kind of tragic because the people that she's because when she goes to meet him, she's like, oh my God, like I'm so excited, and they don't even care. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like at the end, of course, she wants something. Of course, she wants to like the ideology of Chavez to live forever, but also she wanted something for her community because it's where she lives at the end of the day. But it's funny when you see like even for her that she's with the government or she's like she supports the party of the government. When she actually goes there, they're ignoring her, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll do something, we're gonna make this work, which is what happened in Venezuela. Like, and this will happen for so long, like people even supporting the government are getting nothing. I think that's why it's a good representation of the whole situation in the country, because it's like at the end of the day you're a victim of it.
How did you feel about it?
I mean, as a documentary, I think it's a really good thing. A really good documentary. I like the shot as well. Like, speaking like documentary wise, I think it was very brave of them doing that, and I think it was interesting how it was cool that they let the team get into their lives to film this and to show the reality that we're living. Imagine they're like, okay, yeah, get into our lives here and like show somebody this is going on, so maybe we're gonna get some kind of help. Which is sad because I mean, well, it's no spoiler because it's a documentary. How can be a spoiler? But basically, everybody left the community, which is of course because it wasn't a really bad condition. So I think it's interesting how they, in a way, it's very like a sentimental kind of. I think it represents a lot what's going on in Venezuela, and it's like it has a kind of emotional, sentimental, kind of melancholic vibe at the end, meets with the good spirit of like the country, which is I think it's a characteristic of Latin America or Venezuela overall. Like, you could see they were like literally in the worst position ever, and they were having like beauty pageants, like beauty pageants, and they were having all these little things. They're having like they try to dance when they could dance, and like, you know, it's like it represents somehow like the spirit of people and trying to thrive. Like the teacher, or like the teacher was like the nemesis of Tamara because she was from the opposition party, and basically she was fighting to keep her job at the school because she was from the opposition, they want to get rid of her, as it happens all the time in the country now. When it's like when the government's in power, they try to get rid of the opposition, so it's not equal thing. So, you know, like, she has literally nothing, just her daughter and like her little house, and she still was fighting to go to the school inside the community and like teaching the kids. You know, it's such a struggle kind of thing, but still there's like the hope of we need to keep going, and these kids need to keep learning and kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's really like it's a good representation overall of what's happening in Venezuela, like in a really like a small example of it. And yeah, I think it's like a really like outstanding work they did there. It's really like,
they did. It's really beautifully filmed. I think if like nothing else, like it's. I mean, it's clearly like there's a lot of love in there. I think. I think one thing I definitely would want to say as well that I think stood out for me, like, was how I didn't understand, and I don't think we will, and I think this is a whole kind of thing, but in Tamara's case, she was so loyal to Chavez and then Maduro. And it was that like complete lack of like, I don't understand how she thought that everybody was in this situation. And it's sort of like, why do you think the country is so bad? Like, how can you be? And I understand that that's like an indoctrination, and I understand that was the same with like Hitler and everything like that as well. But you know, she's looking around being like, oh, like Chavez is amazing, but it's like, look at how you're fighting to get some recognition for your village and get some bloody like clean water. Like, why do you think that happened? Like, it's so ironic in a way.
It's very ironic, and I think it comes like it's been like it obviously is more complicated than that, but I think the government since the beginning they were always like fighting against something, so they always put in the the blame to somebody else. That was what they were saying all the time since the beginning of the government, like Chavez, all of that. It's like, it's not us, it's them. Somebody is attacking us. Somebody is in charge of this. Somebody's that. So then, like, at one point of his government, he was always blaming everything to America and the United States of America. They're in they want to just like come here and take everything out of us. They want to like do an invasion and all of that. And it's been like the narrative from like 20 something years. And it's like, if that was true, why the country is in this situation? If you are protecting us from this possible invasion from America, what you're doing with all the money you're having in the country right now, where is it invested? Why it's all just disappearing? Like when Chavez was at the government, we have the highest price in a oil tank you say oil tank ever. Like it was like $100 something per tank. It was the highest. Literally, it was like Dubai, Venezuela kind of money. It's like where all this money went to where, and the only thing they did was like build like shitty houses, like shitty buildings, like very bad like education, like bad quality of food, giving free food to people, and they were just stealing everything. And and there's a little example in the documentary as well when they're supposed to. The government gave some millions to make a refurbished kind of thing.
Yeah, the school.
Yeah. And the money just disappeared. Nobody knew where the money went. And the school was literally like a dump. It was a really bad place. And literally all this money, nobody saw the money. It just disappeared. And that's a little representation of what happened
I thought as well that was off the back of that with the refurbishment of the school, and then there's a scene where they've kind of sent this like government teacher to kind of like help the other teacher that we're following from the village, who's kind of like from the opposition party, but like she's kind of complaining and saying like, oh, why haven't you kept the supplies good and everything? And then she gets some pens out. And like, why don't you use the pens? Like, the government sent the pens. Like, you shouldn't waste the pens. And she gets them out, and they don't even work. And it's like, oh, and the woman
and the teacher was like, yeah, that's why, because the pens, the kids return the pens because they don't even work. And that's like a fair example of like how everything works. I think it's a documentary that is really interesting. Like, people that are not familiar with Venezuela or Latin American politics overall. Because I think even though. I think in Venezuela we have a really specific situation right now, economically and politically, especially because it went from like 0 to 100, and like it like a like rich country to like a total mess, like in such a short period of time, if you may say. So it's very a specific context, but in Latin America this replicates everywhere. Like like it happened in Colombia, it happened in Brazil still, like it happens everywhere. So I think if you want to like have an idea of how maybe things may work in Latin America, and with corruption especially, I think this is a good representation. And I think it's a really good job with this.
I think it doesn't explain at all like how Venezuela got there. You need to do your own research, or like you need like an Enzo to explain it to you. But you'll need to like, it's a good starting point to like see where Venezuela, because really sadly Venezuela's still like that, even though this was a few years ago, because they do like a year on, but we all know like how it goes kind of thing. And
probably all these people are probably in another country, like it's happening for a few years. Like a lot of people live in the country by walking. Like I think, for example, by the way, I think in Nat Geo there's like this kind of like a documentary. It's actually like
I think you mentioned it.
I mentioned this to you, right?
The
Caminantes, like the walkers. Walkers?
Caminantes, like
when you walk.
The walkers.
The walkers, yeah. So basically, this
like so international. I'm like translating in Spanish. And
you're
Caminantes.
Like live translations. So funny. So it's basically this Venezuelan comedian called Jose Rafael Guzman, I think his name. He's like a comedian and all of that, but he decided to like film a YouTube like kind of like documentary about how it is to migrate from Venezuela to different countries by walking. But he didn't take like any shortcuts kind of thing. He did it like how everybody would do it. Like
crazy.
Poor people with like $10. $50, and that's the only thing they got in their backpack, and they're walking by days and days. And it's a really interesting thing, because I saw this on YouTube when he published it, like I think it was a year or 2 years ago. I think it was, and he showed the process, a really complicated and like dramatic situation, but also it's very like it shows the spirit of the Venezuelan people, like always upbeat, always like it's gonna get better, always gonna get through this. He made friends during his process, and you know what? It's such a natural, well done project that it got bought by Nat Geo, and there you can watch it like online now, like if you have the channel. So
if we find it, we'll put a link in the description to that film so that you guys can watch it as well.
So yeah, I think at the end it's good that these kind of things are happening so more people know what's going on in Venezuela, because I think for a long time Venezuela was overlooked, especially by, I won't say like especially by media or whatever, but I think Chavez and the government, when as it peaked, it has too many friends around the world, and a lot of countries that were like getting a lot of benefit out of Venezuela.
Yeah.
So a lot of mouth were shut.
But you told me one time that there was like really famous American celebrities that were hanging out with Chavez. Did you say like Sean Penn? Or
Sean Penn loves Chavez. The model, I forgot her name now. Naomi Campbell. She's been to Venezuela like twice and like had pictures with him and like hanging out with him. It's like it was very common. Like Sean Penn is because I think he saw the idea of socialism like as something different, against like the typical capitalism. So this is cool. He's helping the poor people. That's what's being sold, and a lot of people bought it because if you are from outside, you don't know much. You're like, oh, so cool. It's a good guy that come to save the poor people from this country.
I didn't buy that though because you'd already had Che Guevara by then in like Latin America. So it's like, come on. Like by the time Chavez came along, it's like you have to be a bit dumb to actually buy that.
That's how it is. People really thought that
he was very manipulative.
He was a really like charismatic person, really like he used to do these things on TV. He has like he has his own show on Sunday I think it was, and it was like 8 hours long, him talking non-stop, Claire. He was singing there, he was like firing people on TV, he was like whatever, he was like making even like how you say declarations now, like when you make a law happen kind of thing, on TV, kind of signing a contract. So this will happen, boom, you get fired for this, boom, this fucker, whatever. He sings on national TV. It's like a lot of crazy stuff going on. So he was basically like a celebrity, like a weird fucked up character, which has a sympathy because he was like real. It's a whole really long topic, but he actually connected with people who needed to feel seen, and these poor people needed to feel seen by somebody. But then he didn't help us. He didn't help them at the end of the day. I think it's good to give like recognition to people that make this thing happen. Of course, the whole thing, but in the director's Anabel Rodriguez, I think she did like a really good job, and this is like a way to show the world like the reality of Venezuela, like also in a different perspective, but it could be like a normal kind of like political situation kind of thing, but I think it was very like self-explanatory in many ways. You know what I mean?
Agree. You don't really need to know much about the history, or like you can still kind of enjoy it because it's really just about this community. I think what was really good about her direction and the way that they did it was that they kind of threw in like little cultural pieces about Venezuela, but they didn't really make much of a big deal about it. So
it is how it is.
Exactly. So like I think because I have some background from you, like for example, one thing I noticed was such like the guns, they just like throw in the guns, but it's not really spoken about, but it's like a big thing. And then the other thing that was, if really they talk about, they do these kind of beauty pageants as well, and that's kind of like on the back burner. They don't talk about it a lot, but there's a few scenes of these things, like girls getting married like incredibly young, and I mean, like Enzo said, like they have literally nothing,
and it's still like
they still manage to have like makeup, and like these little girls like are doing their makeup,
which is very fucked up at the same time. I think it's very interesting that when you noted that, because it's true. I think it's so interesting how she managed to show, like you say, little pieces of the culture behind what was happening, behind of the issue with the water, behind with the issue with the houses in the community. Like it's still about the sense of them, and like kind of like the beauty pageants, which is so crazy how from so little they put this pressure of beauty to little girls, which is
for sure.
Well, it makes sense. Venezuela at the end of the day is a country with like 5 Miss Universe. I think it's the second country in the world with most crowns in the
Yeah.
beauty pageants in the world. So it's like, okay, so you see this little like it's a really
little
good thing.
touches. And also like quite intense religion as well. It's
Yeah,
spoken about as well.
it was,
so
yeah.
I
It's
think
true.
she does a really, really good job with it. I really recommend this to anybody who doesn't
You can watch this document. I mean, you can search for like onceuponatime.com
Venezuela,
on internet. If you're interested or you really want to check like this documentary, we watch it on cinemestizo.com. We're gonna leave the link on the comments on the video here. If not, you can just type on Google like Once Upon a Time in Venezuela.com, and you're gonna show up the website, and you can get even see the trailer, read. It has like a little videos with the director and little thing. If you want to get like a background to see if you really want to see this. On the website, there's a lot of stuff about it. So yeah, we recommend this.
Definitely really recommend. And well, we hope you guys enjoyed this little bonus episode.
Yeah.
As always, please do tell us, your thoughts if you've watched a documentary, or if you, kind of want to share anything about Venezuela
really
or
cool.
anything we've discussed, please
or like
do.
so like another documentary like this related to a different country,
Exactly.
like anywhere in the world will be really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah.
But
So remember us everything. Claire, remind
always,
everybody to
please do remember to like, comment, keep us up on the algorithm, subscribe,
and all of that. Share.
And
follow us everywhere.
Yeah, check us out.
Remember, you can listen to us like in all the platforms, like on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, all of those, and YouTube as well, of course.
Exactly, and hopefully we'll be back filming together
Soon.
for you soon, so you'll be able to see our beautiful faces.
Yes.
Thank you guys so
thank
much
you
for
guys,
listening.
and see you soon.
See you soon.
Thank you. Bye.